So hiring a tech isn't just about wages, it's taxes, workers' comp, benefits, PTO, and overtime layered on top. So here I want to show you the real cost of putting one truck on the road, right? Putting one tech on the road. And it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I understand here in this data set, which I just recreated, but you should have something similar. But I also understand this is the hardest part of everything is getting the data. And so that's why I want to show you like a realistic data set. I have, some HVAC clients and I help them recreate things like this. But a lot of times it's just as simple as a software export. Something pretty basic, employee name, department, when did they start the pay periods or the pay period start, pay period, and the actual pay date. And then you have revenue here. And then you have, hours, overtime, PTO holiday. If they're commission, if there's, sales plus commission based, then you have a commission. And then we have a gross pay column which you should have. But so first of all, if you want this data set, there's a link to download it. We can work directly from here. But if you're trying to do this from your own data set, you need to have a gross pay column, but you really need to have all in cost. So if you have this, then you can start, you can follow along. If you have gross pay, then you need to figure out unemployment, workers' comp, FICA, like all your fully loaded costs, not including things like trucks and rent and things like that, but your fully loaded cost to bring on a new employee. And this is for every employee here, but then this KPI is your fully burdened cost per technician. And so now we have a job title here and we need to see who, like customer service dispatch, that's not going to be a technician. So we need to get a unique list of this and find which one's a technician. And so I have this little table here, which is, tech check essentially. So these are your technicians and these are not your technicians. But if you're working from your own data set, I'll show you how to redo this. So role and then say is tech. So what we want is we want a unique list of the role. So unique and then, job title, role, whatever you're calling it. And then we have this here. And it just so happens that the top ones are tech. So service tech, yes. Install lead, yes. Installer, maintenance tech, yes. And then the rest are not. Yours might be in a different sequence, but this one just so happens to be in that sequence. And then what we need to do, there's 2 columns or 3 columns we need to calculate. One is the total payroll cost. Another one is the end of the month because we're going to roll this up by month for the visualization. And then the next column is it a tech or not? And so I'll show you how to do all these. So the first one, the first 2 are pretty easy. I mean, they're all pretty easy to calculate. It's just going to be gross pay plus all the other burden, right? Again, FICA, unemployment, workers' comp, and benefits. So you just sum that, and you can see this equals this. So we're good. And to get the EO month, the EO month stands for the end of the month. So if it's January 3rd, it's going to show January 31st. If it's January 30th, it's going to show January 31st. So EO month, and we're going to do it at the end of the period, not the pay date. Comma, 0. If you do a 0 here, what you're going to have is you're going to have the end of that month. If you do a 1, it would be the end of the next month. So it'd be February 28th. Or 29th. I don't think 25 was a leap year, though. And so you can see this equals this. Okay, and so the final thing we need to do is this a tech? And the way we do that is because we created this check column, we can just do a VLOOKUP. You can do a VLOOKUP, an XLOOKUP, an index match. Like, there's a lot of ways you could do it. I'm just going to show you how to do a VLOOKUP. And if you want to know how to do the other ones, just shoot me an email. So we're going to do VLOOKUP, or in the beginning of the book. In the beginning of the book, I cover all that stuff. So we're going to do VLOOKUP, the role, comma, and then you can do either, like if you do the table, then you can just do it like this, and you can see it's the table, or you can just highlight both columns if you want, comma, 2, because it's in the second column. So whenever you do a VLOOKUP, the first column is where this is. Wherever, you're looking at the role, wherever that is, that's the first column. And then how many columns over. And so the role is column 1, and then is tech is column 2. And then comma 0. 0 here, you can also type in false, but it means exact match. We don't want an approximate match. And now you can see you have the 1s and the 0s here. But yeah, so I'm going to delete these because we already have them. I just wanted to show you how to recreate them. And also on this, I'm going to delete this because we already have it. And now we can actually start, 5 minutes in, and we can start the actual KPI. So the first thing we need is a unique list of the months. and then we can get the payroll, and then we can get the text, and then we can get the average. So I'm just going to copy this here, and I'll just put it across the top here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So to get a unique list of the month equals unique, and then the month, the EO month column we created. Make sure you highlight the table. You see how it turns green? Don't do that, but you'll see how the mouse sort of changes. Once it changes that down arrow, then you can do that. Let me just format this as a date, so we're good there. I'm just going to center everything. Okay, so to get payroll, what we do is we need to get the sum of this column if this is the end of the month, the same in cell B3 on the other sheet, the end of the month, and this is 1, because this is only for text. It's not for the whole data set. And that's why doing binary, like this is a very valuable, thing to learn in Excel, doing binary, because then you can strip out like anything. Like if you want to strip out hourly versus commission, if you want to strip out, say, I don't know, like different, departments. You could do it by department, but say you wanted to do the sum of operations and sales. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but if you did, then you could do that to strip it out. Instead of having to do equal sum of operations plus equal sum of sales plus equal sum, right? And so you don't have to do any of that. So equals sum if. So we want to sum the total fully loaded cost, comma, if this, comma, is 1, right? We don't want the zeros. And then comma, and then if this, the EO month, comma, is it's cell B3 on the other sheet, but I'll just show you. Cell B3. And now we have that. Just format it as a dollar, and then you can drag it. Well, double click to get it. Okay, so this one is a little bit tricky to do because you can't just count like the number of times a 1 shows up in, the month column. Like you can't just say, okay, like there's, for the month of January, there are, because you can do a sum of this, right? So here in January, there's 48 1s, but it's not 48 texts. And the reasoning is because the pay period is twice, right? There's 26 pay periods in a year, every 2 weeks. And so there's duplicates is what I'm getting at. So what we can do is we can use the filter function. So I want to filter all of the text, right? So I want to filter, you can do name or role. You can do it on name, actually. Don't do it on role. Yeah, that's my mistake. Because we're going to remove the duplicates, and you can see all these people are service techs, and if you were to remove the duplicates here, then you would undercount. You could do it off of employee ID as well. So we want to get that list, comma, where, and I'm not going to open the bracket here because I want to show you the error. If you do this, you're going to get an error, and I'll show you that error and how to fix it. So we want this where the EO month equals, you don't do a comma, you do equals cell B3. If you remember, B3 was the cell of January 31st on the starting point tab. Or yeah. And then comma, and then tech here equals 1. So this formula is right. It's just oh, that did work. Oh, yeah, it worked because I did it, the formula is wrong. You don't do a comma. I'm so used to doing commas. You do a multiplication because it's an and criteria. Because what you're noticing here is look how many there are, right? So this is an or criteria, but we want and, so you have to multiply it, and now you get the error. And the reason you're getting an error is the formula is correct. You just have to put everything in brackets. And even now, I think it's off just 1. Let me see. Okay, so that works. And so the first thing you'll notice is that there are duplicates. So we don't want that. So we want the unique list. And now these are all the texts that worked in the month of January, or that received a payment in the month of January. And you could go a step further. So say, for example, somebody was fired in the middle of the month. You could choose to do it at the end of the month to get the count of texts. In this one, I'm just doing if anybody received a payment in that month. and now count A. And now what count A is going to do is it's just going to give me a count because I want, how many are there are, what was there, 14, 16? Let me just count here. So you see how it's 16? So we want the number 16, not a list of names. And so we have that here. And then you can double click. And now you can see the number of techs that you have, over time. So you can see, you've been hiring more and more techs. And so now what we want to do is just divide the two. Equals this divided by this. Let me remove that. And that's it. That's how you calculate it. The visualization part is the easiest part of everything. The hardest part is getting your data structured. The next hardest part is getting the insights. But the easiest part is creating this chart. And it's just something as simple as the average. So all you have to do is you can highlight the month, hold down Control, highlight the average, go to Insert, and then you can pick a chart. A line doesn't really make much sense here. A column chart is going to be better. And then let me just call it fully burdened costs, just to save a couple seconds. Okay, and then finally, if you want to put a line in the middle, like a target line, you can do that. It's super easy to do. Just put your target here and then copy everything and then click on the chart and paste it. If you want to see the values, click on the chart, click the crosshair, data labels. Super noisy, so I don't recommend it. But if you want to do it and you want to make it a little bit easier to see, maybe just do the high point and the low points. Or you can click on the cells, click on the numbers like that, and get a little bit of a background. And then you can just, physically move a couple of them just to get them out of the way. But you can see it's a little bit annoying. But it's one of those things you have to do once, and then you want to do it again. So if it's something you do want, then you could do it that way. I won't do all of them just to save, some time. But yeah, so that's essentially how you create it. Again, I understand that getting the data is the hardest part in all of this. But if you have any questions about this KPI, shoot me an email. If you want this file with the completed solution, then shoot me an email or there's a link to download it. And if you do need some help getting your data, structured in a usable format, or the KPIs, if you need some help, creating these reports, then there's a link to my calendar, or you can just shoot me an email. But anyways, that's it for this one, and I'll see you in future lessons.